there was one arrest at that meeting, right? It looks like there was two, but there was really one. The one gentleman that refused to leave, he was taken outside, but he wasn't actually arrested. There was another gentleman that was arrested, and you know, his story is quite tragic. There, there's involvement. There was a woman, a girl in Loudoun County about two and a half months ago, maybe, that was sexually assaulted. It's so. I'm going to leave the details out.
Okay.
But she was sexually assaulted by a transgender. Okay, and the man that was taken to the ground was the father of the victim, and he was being taunted by a woman that was behind him that knew of the details of his daughter. And so he was arrested, and upon his arrest, taken down to the sheriff's office, they, hey, what happened? What's going on? Why were you acting like this? Then the story came out, right? So he then relayed all the details to law enforcement about what happened. Now you might be saying, or your viewers might be saying, okay, so if this happened in school, why was there no arrest, or why wasn't it turned over to the sheriff's department? And the answer to that is, last year, the state of Virginia passed HB 257. It went into effect July 1st of last year. And basically what HB 257 does, in a summary, is if there is a reportable incident, and I have this posted on my website, you can see what the reportable, anything you can think of is considered a reportable incident. It's at the discretion of the principal as to whether or not they turn it over to the police.
Okay, so let's back up a little bit. Was it a student that was assaulted, or was it a parent?
It was a student that was assaulted by a trans student.
Okay, and it's fascinating because in the June 22nd meeting over this transgender bill 8040, this was one of the concerns that parents were citing. Their opposition to the bill was based on their concern that their daughters could be attacked. That if their daughters are sharing the same bathrooms, hotel rooms, gym locker rooms, etc., with a transgender student, that their daughters wouldn't be safe. I mean, conceivably, the reason that we have segregated bathrooms in the first place is to protect women. It's not to protect men, right? It's to protect women. And so the parents in this meeting were expressing their concerns that this new policy that LCPS was trying to implement would make their daughters unsafe. And then you're saying essentially that it happened, that
and the people in the room don't even realize it.
And so this girl was attacked. How old was she? Do you know? Are you able to share that?
High school.
She was okay. So she was a high school girl. She was attacked. And what did the school do about it? I mean, did they do anything about it? Did they just deny that it was happening? I mean, what was the reaction?
There was none. There was no report filed. Okay. The Commonwealth attorney in our county, who needs to go, and there's an active recall petition that we were involved in with Stand Up Virginia to get her removed. She declined to investigate. Okay, so under this HB 257, this student was sodomized. Okay, that's pretty. Just
on the school grounds. This happened, in the school,
in school bathroom,
and the school board has failed to file a report.
They're not obligated to. It's what happens under this bill that a lot of people, I'm really trying to elevate the awareness of it, because it's really either people just, a lot of times people just dismiss a lot of this politics stuff because it seems too heavy. But under this bill, HB 257, actually it's an amendment to an existing statute. It basically allows the principal, and if need be, the superintendent, to act as judge, jury, and executioner. Wow. So for example, if little Billy goes into school on Monday and assaults a math teacher, punches him in the mouth, knocks him out, little Billy, then the principal calls the police. Little Billy gets arrested, and normal legal action ensues. On Tuesday, little Johnny does the same thing to another math teacher. The principal doesn't have to feel obligated to report it to the police. So you have two identical situations that are not equal outcomes. It's not equitable, and the onus is on the principal as to what decision they want to make. Now, the basis or the logic behind this is all this nonsense related to school, to the school to prison pipeline reduction.
Okay, so let me get this straight. So you said this bill, HB 257, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, that the purpose of this is to give the president of the school, principal of the school, this administrative power to make decisions that should be above his pay grade, essentially, to act as, like you said, judge, jury, and executioner, in order to prevent kids from going to jail. I mean, that's the explanation.
Yeah, and to add to that, there's also an immunity clause within the bill that prevents them from any civil liability.
I mean, just the way you're describing it, right? It sounds dystopian. I mean, I'm reminded of Judge Dredd. If you guys have ever seen that old movie, there's a remake of it, a more recent remake. But to give one person this kind of power, to supersede the law, over a spurious idea of, well, we're trying to put less kids in jail. But the problem is that, as you said, I guess it works both ways, because he can also, the principal can also choose not to report or not to take action on a student being attacked or assaulted, or any other thing, I guess, if they have this kind. So HB 257, it's not pending. You're saying that this is passed. HB 257 is the legal standard, I guess, for the schools.
Yeah, I'll put a link in. So I found a lawyer that does an excellent job of summarizing it in 3 minutes.
But here's what they did. If a crime occurs in the school, on the school property, or on a school bus, that is in the neighborhood of sexual assault in general, alcohol and drug violations, firearm violations, if one of those types of crimes occur in that building or on a school bus, the principal does not have to report that to law enforcement. That's what they did. And they said that the reason that they wanted to do that is to cut down the pipeline from kids going from school to prison. But if your daughter gets sexually assaulted on a school bus by another student, the principal has discretion not to report that to law enforcement. Does that make your daughter more safe?
But okay. I also have links to the existing statute and the amendment HB 257. And so as a result of 257, right, this incident with the girl was not reported to authorities. And I mean that's rape, that's sodomization. I mean that should be reported. But the problem, the families retain legal counsel, and I hope to God that either the family or their legal counsel comes out with a public statement before August the 10th, because August the 10th is when the school board will vote to approve policy 8040. Now that even gets complicated, which we can touch on it if you want, but if you think about, when you look at that link and you look at the, I don't know if I put it in there. Yeah, in the article and the link I just sent you at the very last sentence, all LCPS principles. Okay. If you click there, click on that, and you'll be able to see all of the quote unquote reportable offenses.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Here we go.
Yeah. Well, there's nothing. So put the whole trans problem aside for a moment. This is like open season. This is like Purge or The Purge.
Right. Yeah. The movie. You're talking about the movies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like when you think of your kid's safety, obviously, your daughter in sexual assault, I mean, that's the last thing you want to hear about. But if you got, boys, girls, whatever, and you put sexual assault to the side for a moment, there's a whole world of things out here that are just, will embolden kids that either may not have acted out on an impulsion or a desire, but they're protected in the event that they want to do so.
They're protected. You mean if the principal decides not to report it, if the principal decides not to
exactly
take action?
Now, they could be rolling the dice. But
go ahead.
They could be rolling the dice with the decision they might make because it could backfire and the principal could turn out to report it. But the fact that there's a 50-50 chance,
Mm-hmm.
that improves the odds of somebody wanting to do wrongdoing and getting away with it.
So I'm actually really glad. I mean, this is why I'm really happy I brought you on, because I didn't even know about this. I didn't even know about HB 257. I didn't know about what's going on in the fight against that. About, like you said, about this girl who was sexually assaulted, raped at the school, and because the media is not reporting this. I mean, this is the exact reason I'm interested in in what's going on in Loudoun County, because the media is just doing such a poor and irresponsible, really, I think irresponsible job of telling the American people what's actually happening, because it goes so much deeper.
In all fairness, though, the media is unaware of this.
Oh,
because it was not a reported incident.
Okay.
And I'm not necessarily a huge fan of all the media, but
Right.
The sheriff's department didn't even have the details until after the father was arrested. Like, okay,
wait. The father was arrested?
The father was the gentleman in the video that you saw taken to the ground with his belly, and he had a bloody lip.
Is it John Tiggs?
No, that John Tiggs was
Tiggs.
the guy that didn't want to leave because of his First Amendment.
Yeah.
So he was taken to the parking lot. He wasn't actually arrested.
So what was the name of the guy that was in this video? He was taken down.
I'm going to leave that out.
You're not going to say his name. Okay. So, but had this already happened prior to the meeting?
What, his daughter?
His daughter, yeah.
It happened like 2.5 months ago.
Okay, so it happened in May, and
somewhere around May, the family was set, all three of them,
okay,
brave girl, to come out, and they were all signed up to address the school board.
During this June 22nd meeting, they were all going to use their time. They would have had 3 minutes total, 1 minute each. Is that correct?
Correct.
And they were going to use their 3 minutes to bring this attention to the public, what had happened to this poor girl. And they were denied that opportunity because fascism, that's how I'm going to present it. You can, I guess, come to your own conclusions, but the board shut down free speech because people were clapping. And the father is understandably outraged because he now is denied the opportunity to let the public know, and his daughter is denied the opportunity to let the public know what happened. Is that correct?
Yeah, but that wasn't the basis for his, for him being arrested. The basis for him being arrested was being taunted since the very beginning of that meeting by a woman behind him that knew of the details of his daughter's incident. So she was good, and she's for the whole trans thing. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
So I don't know if this was planned. I don't know. I'm not going to come up with a conspiracy theory.
Right.
I'd like to just think, that this woman is such a disgrace that she needs to be, as soon as this goes public, this woman she's got to go public because she's an absolute pig, a disgrace. To do something like this to some man or woman or their family, knowing what happened to their kid, just to get him pushed to the point where he lost his mind. And who could blame him?
Oh, who could blame him? I mean, it's
right.
It's horrifying, and who can imagine what his daughter's going through. Now, have they taken her out of school? I mean, is she being homeschooled now? Is that?
I don't know what they're going to be doing in the fall.
Okay.
So, I mean, the school year was over at that point, but I don't know what their plans are for the fall.
Wow. And do you have, because you said like this hasn't been made public yet, do you have an article about this on your website, or is this something that you haven't really written about or brought into the public attention yet?
I haven't brought it into the public attention. How do I know about it? I know about it from a friend of the family. I know about it from an individual that's in law enforcement, familiar with the situation. And I also know some of the background as a result of a post that the mother put on a Facebook chat.
Okay.
It wasn't overly detailed, but it confirmed the things that I had that I told you, that the story came out after her husband was arrested, came out with the sheriff's department. And I believe an investigation or charges were last week or were coming out this week, but I haven't seen anything about it. And I'm just hoping to God the attorney that they have, leave the names out. We don't need to know who the people. I know their names, but that's not relevant.
It's not relevant.
The attorney, I'm hoping, comes out and makes a statement and blows this entire county and the state policies up and sues the hell out of anybody and everybody.
Well,
because this man's reputation was also tarnished,
mm-hmm.
right? He was portrayed as some crazy, whacked out, anti-trans, white supremacist guy. And he's not.
Well, I hope so too. I mean, I agree with you. I hope so too. I hope, because to me, this is one of the consequences of, policies like 8040, like HB 257. We have segregated spaces for men and women, bathrooms and locker rooms and hotel rooms for a reason. And it's especially for children, it's for their protection. And when you take away that protection, when you take away their ability to have their own spaces, danger ensues. I mean, I think this is just a natural consequence of what happens. And I think, like you said, if this comes out, and the Loudoun County people hear about it, the American people hear about it, which I hope they do, maybe it'll start to change people's minds. I mean, maybe people start to see how dangerous this stuff can be.
That's the hope, because it's what happened to that family is just unimaginable. But I also feel like that there's a duty to have that story told, mm-hmm. so that the other 82,000 students in this county and their parents need to know that this actually happened. They don't need to know names, but they need to know it happened.
Yeah. Well, that is a very very dark story, and I appreciate you sharing it with me. Obviously we're not going to do anything more until it becomes public and more information, as the family decides they want to share information about what happened. That's their right. But I think this is the problem with this, ironically, within this kind of woke social justice philosophy. And I'm sure you've heard a lot about this, that there's a hierarchy, right? There's a hierarchy of oppressed people, right? And so within this kind of pyramid of oppression, it used to be that women were near the top of the pyramid, but now that the trans trend has happened, and this this argument over trans rights has just exploded, they're above women, right? On this oppression hierarchy that the progressives point to, they view trans people as more oppressed than women, and therefore they think that trans people's rights should essentially supersede that of women. And so that leads to these kinds of situations where women are unsafe, or they feel unsafe or are unsafe. And like you said, anybody who speaks out against it, whether it's because they have a daughter or whether it's because they are a woman, who is opposed to this, who is afraid, they're called a TERF, they're called a transphobe, they're called bigots, they're labeled as, like you said, this gentleman was called a white supremacist, he was called hateful, and their reputations are smeared, and their lives are destroyed, just because they're trying to protect their families. I mean, what do you think about that?